Hello and welcome to Brook's talk for iWill Week, where we will be exploring the role of digital engagement versus in real life opportunities when working with young people and building a movement. So I'm going to start by some introductions. My name's Sarah and I'm the participation coordinator at the charity Brook.
Hi, and I'm Julianne and I'm a participation and business development coordinator at Brook.
And at Brook, we have participation forums and they're like panels of young people we meet with regularly and they help us to steer our work at Brook. And we set up these forums at the end of last year when a lot of our work was still very much digital. So we have some of the Brook forum members here today, if you're okay to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm in the 20 to 24 forum group. I'm from Paisley, Scotland, and I have also been involved with illustration with Brook, as well as being the forum member.
Hello, I'm Caris. I'm also based in Scotland, in Glasgow. I'm in the same forum group as Rachel, and I've just joined this year.
Thank you. So for those of you who don't know about Brook, I'll just give you a little bit of an introduction to Brook. So Brook has been established since 1964, so for about 58 years now. Brook is the UK's leading sexual health and wellbeing charity for young people. We provide free and confidential relationships and sexual health services throughout the UK at our Brook clinics. And we also provide sex and relationships education for young people, training for professionals, counselling and wellbeing services, as well as accessible digital information via the Brook website.
Brilliant. So at the end of 2020, Brook signed up to the Power of Youth Charter, and we've continued to work really hard to ensure young people's voices remain at the heart of what we do. And we wanted to get involved in this year's iWill Week, thinking about youth social action and participation over the last 18 months, and how we've mostly worked digitally with our forum members and how they feel about this approach. So we've got Rachel and Caris here today to discuss the following question. So how do we strike the balance when building a movement, working together digitally versus in real life? So I thought it'd be a good starting point for us to think about some of the pros and cons of digital engagement, what we think's worked well over the last year at Brook. So maybe if I hand over to Rachel, what do you think about that?
Yeah, so my main thing for digital engagement with Brook and having all the opportunities being digital is that the geography hasn't mattered. Because I'm from Scotland, I wouldn't be able to go to many things if they were in England or elsewhere, Wales or anything. So having everything digital means that people from all over can join. We've got other people in the forum members who are not even in the UK, and they can join, and we can all network with people who I would never have met otherwise. I would never have had that opportunity to share ideas. And I think it's so accessible to have engagement digitally, having everything, the knowledge and everything so accessible to us, and getting those points across to each other. And I also think that I have a lot more confidence digitally, because there's that separation between between me and the other person, whereas if it was in person it might be a wee bit more hard for me to express my opinion or talk about things that I wouldn't have the space to in real life.
In addition to what Rachel said, which I would agree with all of that, I think a lot of these kind of digital platforms that we've been using so far as a forum group, I've never seen quite a lot of them before, but they're really handy for being able to instantly kind of work together on projects, collate ideas and have that information there saved in a sort of cloud format. And I think maybe with kind of in-person events, that's not necessarily kind of as encouraged. It's kind of you do the stuff at the event and then you might kind of forget about it in the meantime. But when you're kind of used to working in these online spaces, you're used to that kind of accessibility and flexibility in terms of being able to dip in and out of projects, put your ideas online. Even if you necessarily can't attend all the meetings, you can kind of still get involved.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and I think like along the way we've tried, haven't we, different platforms, not everything works. It's good to try it out, get your opinions, get you to feed in, and then, you know, maybe move on to something else. But like you said, it is a great way to build projects, a lot of what we've been doing this year, sharing those ideas, and for people, I suppose, to work on them outside of the meetings. It has been really good. And I know, speaking to some of the younger forum members as well, some of them have spoken about living rurally, so a little bit like what Rachel was saying as well, not having many opportunities locally, and they've really enjoyed meeting people from across the country online. Okay, so we saw about some of the pros. What about some of the cons of digital engagement? What do you think?
I think
Sorry, go on, you
no,
start.
that's so good. Caris, you can go.
I was just going to say it might not be as engaging as in real life. I know, you know, from personal experience as well, I will admit it's easier to switch off when you're in your bedroom or whatever, and you've got Zoom on, and you can kind of, your attention can more easily wander than if you're in a real life kind of face-to-face setting. So that's something to consider.
Yeah, and I think just going off of what I was saying for the pro, I feel like sometimes when you're in person, some, like, because of the confidence, some people can be more comfortable talking when they're in person or like when they're digitally, but in person sometimes I think it's hard to get everyone's points in. And I think digitally, especially when you're using it across platforms, like if you're doing like a video platform or more like a text platform, everyone has an equal opportunity to speak. Yeah.
That's great, thank you. So let's think about in-person opportunities versus in real life. What are the benefits about engaging in social action versus participation opportunities in person?
I think in person compared to online, it's a lot easier to network, and that kind of comes a lot more naturally. That's sort of just getting to know new people, sharing ideas that I feel like might not come up otherwise if you were on a digital space that can sometimes feel a bit sort of stilted. So I think that's a real benefit of in-person participation, that you just get that natural flow and building of relationships that's a little bit hindered on platforms like Zoom, where you can't kind of interact as easily. People might be getting cut off from each other or having connection issues, and it's a little bit harder to make those connections.
I think the benefit for us is the participation forum that have had most of or all of our stuff online. It'd be very good, and it's very beneficial to be able to meet people in person. We all know each other, but we haven't physically been in the same space. I think that's a huge benefit for me, is like being able to actually see the person and talk it away. And again, like Caris was saying, it's easier flow when you're in person. It's sometimes the etiquette of online talking is quite hard when you're butting in and you're trying to get everything in. But I think like in person it's so much easier flow. And also not everyone who can participate in forums can do it digitally. So I think given that space and being able to like choose, so if someone doesn't use digital work, then it'd be very beneficial to have something that's in person.
Great, thank you. So are there any downsides to in real life participation opportunities?
I think on the flip side of what we were saying about the benefits of wanting to meet people in real life and being able to chat, on the flip side of that, some people might find that actually more intimidating and kind of prefer what maybe feels less pressured on something like a Zoom, where you're not necessarily kind of expected to contribute or speak all the time, or have to sort of speak to the person next to you. So that's kind of a downside of that for some people potentially. I suppose you've got to think about that everybody's different and people prefer different things.
Yeah, and I'd agree with that. What Caris was saying, that it's harder to open up, I think, when you're in an in-person opportunity. It's, although we do know each other, like I was saying, we might not have been in the same space together, still getting used to each other, although I like that's quite odd in that way, that we do know each other so well, but we also haven't been that in each other's presence, so it is different. And also I think the downside to in-person participation is that geography does make it hard for some people to be able to get there. For example, if we were doing something in England and I'm in Scotland, it's much harder and more costly. There's more effort involved in going to an in-person thing than there is going digitally.
Thank you. So now thinking about then benefits of in-person in real life, and then the sort of downsides to in real life opportunities, what does this mean for funding opportunities for organisations like us?
I think that there has to go a lot hand in hand with the needs and the wants of Brook, and also with the needs and wants of the participation members. And I think after COVID, because we had everything digitally, it makes things so much more accessible. The things that we've done with participation is things that I would not have been able to do if it was done if it was done in person. So having the digital platform to be able to have those opportunities just like at my fingertips, there's so many opportunities that I've had that would never have existed otherwise. But again, like what I was saying, it's because we're from all over the UK. If we were to do in-person things, it's high cost, it's harder for us to get there. So for funding, I think a lot of things have to be considered, but it's all about just finding exactly what each other are capable of doing and exactly what each other are wanting, exactly what we want.
Yeah, I would kind of pick up on some of the things that Rachel's touched on there in terms of the dreaded C word, kind of lessons learned from COVID. And I think one of those lessons is potentially about cross-organisation collaboration. I think throughout the pandemic, that's what a lot of these kind of community and third sector organisations realised, that they really had to kind of rely on each other and better share information and resources to kind of have the impact they wanted. So I think that's something that we could kind of look to if funds are kind of limited for these sort of like in-person events, or if we're applying for funds, we can think of kind of collaborating with other organisations in those applications and in those plans, and that might allow us to have more capacity to do these events again if the costs and the resources are shared. And I think that's important to consider because there clearly are real benefits to this in-person participation. So something to keep in mind.
Brilliant. And it's lovely to hear. It's nice. It's kind of like a bit of a reflection, isn't it? Because it's kind of nearly towards the end of the first year of being in the forums and thinking about how it's worked. And obviously I feel like there is a clear need that we would love to all be in person, and we need to make that happen as well, even though we are from all across the country. But just wanted to say a thank you from me and Julianne for sharing your ideas today with us. And I think it just shows how important it is that we do listen to the views of young people like yourselves when we're considering social action projects and campaigning, and what works well and how we do strike that good balance. And like Karis was saying, then just thinking about the funding opportunities, maybe collaborating with other organisations. And I think a hybrid approach is clear. I think it's clear that young people are missing those physical spaces, those opportunities to get to know each other and meet each other in real life. And also thinking about the different ways to engage young people digitally, but also the hidden costs with that as well. The software and the platforms that we've spoken about, and making sure that we get it right and make it fun and accessible. And we've recently been doing things like, where we can maybe funding data for people, like you mentioned, in terms of sometimes people don't have access. We want to make sure that people aren't excluded from having these meetings and these opportunities. So thank you. And for anybody listening, if organisations would like to learn more about what we do, or if any young people would like to get involved, you can visit Brook, www.brook.org.uk, and you can visit our participation section, or email us participation@brook.org.uk. But I just want to say thank you for listening. I'm sure everyone else would like to say thank you as well.
Thank you.